Shri Jataayu ji. Actually, Jataayu is his pen name. His actual name is Shankara Narayan. Shall I say that? Yeah. So I invite Shankar Narayan ji to present his paper on spirituality of Bharati's Kannan Paattu study.
ஸ்ரீ குருப்யோ நமஹ. அனைவருக்கும் வணக்கம். நாம் அனைவரும் நன்கு அறிந்த மகாகவி பாரதியாருடைய கண்ணன் பாட்டு, அதனுடைய கவிதை அழகு, அதனுடைய ஒரு இலக்கிய தன்மைக்காகவே பெரிதும் அது பேசப்படுகிறது. ஆனால் அதன் உள்ளுரையாக ஒரு மிக அற்புதமான ஒரு ஆன்மீக கண்ணோட்டம் இருக்கின்றது. அதை பற்றி இங்கு பேசப் போகின்றோம் என்று. So my paper is on spirituality of Bharati's Kannan Paattu. Bharati is not our Sushant Bharati here, who just presented his paper. This is the great Subramanya Bharati, who is one of the greatest modern personalities of Indian Renaissance. He is popular as a nationalistic Tamil poet largely, but he was a multifaceted genius in a short life of just 40 years. His canon runs to 4,000 plus pages in 16 volumes. Kala Varisayil Bharati Padaippugal is called. That comprises poems on diverse subjects, essays, short stories, newspaper articles, translations, everything. So, as many of you might know, Bharati started his career as a fierce nationalist, as a journalist. So, when he was operating from the British territory of Madras, the newspaper where he was working, it got, the British always were putting censures on it. They were about to arrest him. So on the advice of some of his friends and well-wishers, he moved to Pondicherry and he lived there in a self-exile for 10 years. And the Pondicherry, the place was the refuge of many Swadeshis of that era. Sri Aurobindo, VVS Iyer and many others. So during this period, Bharati was a very spiritual person from the very beginning. He started writing poetry at the age of 10. But even the name Bharati, which signifies Saraswati, was a title bestowed on him. So, but during this self-exile in Pondicherry, the blossoming of his spiritual dimension happened. So, on one side, the British spies were chasing him, and the newspapers he were running were just banned. So, they were starting newspapers in a new name. And he was very active in his political writings and awakening the countrymen towards patriotism and nationalism. But the inner mind of his was still dwelling in the divine. So, amidst that whole suffering and turbulence, he wrote three great poetic works, Panjali Shabadam, Kannan Paattu and Kuil Paattu. And he also wrote a lot of essays on Vedantic themes. He translated the Gita and the Yoga Sutras and some of the Rigvedic Suktas as well. And in this paper, we will undertake a comprehensive study of this great work Kannan Paattu, especially highlighting the Vaishnava spirituality as its major inspiration. What is Kannan Paattu? It literally means the Krishna songs. It's a sequence of 23 lyrical songs. Each song has multiple verses. In this, Bharati takes multiple bhava-filled roles, taking, Krishna, my friend, Krishna, my father, Krishna, my mother, Krishna, my servant, Krishna, my disciple, Krishna, my king, child and lover. And the word Kannan, the Tamil word Kannan, has its own significance. It's a very unique and intimate word by which we Tamils call Sri Krishna. So it has been used in the ancient Tamil Sangam poetry. There are about 20-30 poets with the surname Kannan mentioned. And the words Kanha and Kanhaya are, I think they are derived from this word Kannan. And the word Kannaya of Telugu also can probably be traced back to this. And in the sequence of poems, it's not just Kannan. So, there is a poem Kannan in Vilayattu Pillai, which is Krishna, my boy. And there is also Kannamma and Kulandai. So Kannamma is the feminine Krishna. Okay. So usually this word is used to call girl children Kannamma, like that, like Lordly of Hindi. But here Bharati uses it to denote the feminine Krishna. So there are songs of that kind as well. And this Kannan Paattu is very popular, very charming, simplicity of words but conveying deep. Who would not love songs like Chinnanjiru Keliye or Teerada Vilayattu Pillai? Every Tamil person in this audience, I am sure, is familiar with these songs. So, what is really the inspiration for Kannan Paattu? V.V.S. Iyer, the great revolutionary and scholar, says that when Bharat woke up from its long slumber, the first light that it saw is of Sri Krishna driving his chariot. Now, all nationalists, as you may know, were inspired by the Gita and the vision of Krishna. So that Bharati was also inspired by the Krishna of Kurukshetra at the start. But during this exile, that's when his heart went into the playful deeds and joys of Sri Krishna's personality. And this was also enhanced by his study of Nalayara Divya Prabandham, the songs of Alvars. And from that came out this Kannan Paattu. And this great scholar, he has highly rated Kannan Paattu as a literary work of a superior quality. And Dr. Prema Nandakumar, who is from the same Srirangam, she also says that Bharati's splendid poetry is nothing but an extension of Alvars. So, just those who may not be familiar with the great tradition, I will spend 1 minute explaining this. So, Alvars are 12 in number, and their entire, the collection of their poetry is called Nalayara Divya Prabandham, 4,000 verses. This is an esteemed spiritual work in Tamil Nadu. It is considered Tamil Vedam or Dravida Veda, chanted in every Vishnu temple of Tamil Nadu for the last 1,000 years. Okay? And in that picture, the one at the center whom you see is the Shatakopa or Sadagoban in Tamil, called Nam Alvar, which means our own Alvar. And his seminal work is called Thiruvai Mozhi, okay, which is, all these Alvars are Purvacharyas to Sri Ramanuja. Sri Ramanuja has derived his entire philosophy from them. So, during this Pondicherry years, Bharati immersed himself in the poetry of Alvars. So, there are many references in his essays of this period. He also wrote English essays in Arya or Sri Aurobindo's magazine. As per the memoirs on Bharati, so he used to discuss Thiruvai Mozhi with many Sri Vaishnava scholars. He used to sing them on the beaches of Pondicherry in a trance. So, one thing to notice here, neither Bharati nor I are born into the Sri Vaishnava tradition to which the Alvars belong. But in Tamil Nadu, all of us grow up with the Shaiva and Vaishnava Bhakti literature of Nayanmars and Alvars. Okay? So, neither of them are alien to any of us. And especially during this Pondicherry era, the Swadeshis of many communities and castes were lived together. The thing that was uniting them was the love of the Desh, Dharma and the divine. And there were many Sri Vaishnavas in the close circle of Bharati, and that also played a role here. There are many literary critics' opinions on Kannan Paattu. Kupa Rajagopalan says that Kannan Paattu starts with Alvars, but it does not end there. Bharati also has, Shakti and Krishna, both of them as their Ishta Devatas. So the Kannamma part of the song actually comes from his Shakti influence. And Tiruloga Sitaram, who was another spiritual poet, he says that this is not just some imaginative poetry, but it is an experience of Para Bhakti, transcendental devotion of Bharati. The Tamil scholar Mapo Sivanyanam says the whole aesthetics and themes of this are non-conventional. There are a lot of progressive ideas in this. So many more views I have given in the paper. All these are correct in some way. They focus on different aspects. Now I present my own original take on Kannan Paattu. So I see that the Bharati's bhava expressions are very unique. So in the Bhakti convention, we have Dasya Bhava, where the devotee considers himself as a slave or servant. There is Sakhya Bhava, like that of Arjuna, where you consider Lord as your friend. And there is Vatsalya Bhava, where, the Lord is your child and you are the mother or the father. And then there is Madhurya Bhava, which is conjugal love. So, very well known in the case of the gopis of Vrindavan, Mirabai, Andal and all that. Even negative emotions, like that of Kamsa. You say that the one point that negative emotion can also become a kind of bhakti. But it is just said to complete the circle, and none of us are advised to adopt that. Okay, the Virodha Bhava. So, but conventionally, bhaktas pursue either one single bhava, like either Vatsalya Bhava or Madhurya Bhava. Surdas has both, right? Vatsalya and Madhurya. And they get totally immersed. But the uniqueness of this Kannan Paattu is that he is just putting himself in multiple bhavas, one after the other, in a sequence. And this is a very unique thing in the bhakti literature. Why is that? What is really the reason behind? Because Bharati goes by the Gita. Tameva sharanam gaccha sarva bhavena bharata, the Lord says. Take refuge in him with all your thought, your whole being. So whatever emotional capacity that you have, because the human mind is infinite. There is an ocean of emotions that is always bubbling in the human mind. So he just pours out every possible bhava that he could conceive. That's one reason. And there is a precedent for that. In the Gita, Arjuna says, Piteva putrasya sakheva sakhyuhu priya priyayar hatireva sodu. After seeing the Vishwarupa. Just like the father forgives the faults of son, or the friend to another friend, or a lover to a beloved, you are to me like that. So that's the precedent. Through this, Bharati collectively presents a philosophical strain that views Krishna as the absolute, who is beyond all relations. So that's a philosophical strain, which I will explain in the end. So I have presented a lot of poetry in my paper. Those interested can go through it, but for the paucity of time, I will just give you some glimpses here. So Krishna, my friend, says, see, I want to take away Subhadra if I ask him. And Subhadra is Krishna's sister, So you are asking a friend how to kidnap your sister. Krishna doesn't hesitate. He gives an answer in 2 moments. How you can do that? I want to kill Karna the archer. Where to go? He offers solution in 1 moment. That is Krishna. The poem starts like that, and then he says, when I am angry, he would just say the word to make me roll with laughter. When I am forlorn, he would do something that cheers and cherishes my happiness. In times of big danger, he would come stand beside me and remove the danger. Like the moths that fall into the flame and die, he would kill away all the evil that comes forth. So, a true friend in a real life, so he views Krishna in that. It's very incidental that one of the very close friends of Bharati in Puducherry was named Kuvalai Kannan. He was also a Kannan. So here we see how the poet starts with Arjuna, but he doesn't stop there. He puts his own heart into this. That's how Krishna, my friend, is presented. Another poem, Krishna, my mother, Kannan and Thai. This is translated by the poet himself. But even his own translation can't match the Tamil original. But here, when he conceives Krishna as the mother, there is of course the intimacy. But there is he ties the Srishti aspect of the Lord with that. Because the mother is the one who always creates, right? Mother is involved with creation. We all come out of the mother. So he says, the realms of life are her bounteous breasts, and consciousness is the milk with which she fed me. Endless delight. She keeps giving me this milk till I get tired of it. Such grace is my mother's. They call her Krishna. Oh, she has clasped me in fond embrace with her arms of ethereal space. So the arms with which he clasps me is nothing but this Akasha, he says. And then he says, he places me on her lap, which is called earth. And she loves to tell me endless stories strange and mysterious stories. Some of the stories are called pleasures, evolutions and victories. There are some other stories which are called defeats and falls. And she keeps telling me this story to suit my various moods and stages. Lovingly told, ever entrancing. See, we see the echo of Gita here. Samadukhe sukhe drishtva labha labho jaya jaya. All this pleasure, pain, victory, defeat, every one of this is like a story that a mother called Krishna tells us. That's how he conceives Krishna. And the father conception is even more majestic. Who is father? Father is the one who gives us identity, who gives us our kula and our lineage. So he says, I can't fathom to spell the name of my father. Why? Because there are so many names for him, but people generally know him as Kannan. Those who don't even know his face, they give some 3 or 4 names to him and tell that these are the only names for him. But his names are infinite. The Nama and Rupa, infinite. And some people say that he belongs to the Kula of Devas. But that's not true, I am telling you. No, my father was born in the Kula of warriors, Kshatriya, but he grew up in the Kula of cowherds. He excelled among the Brahmanas. He is thickly in friendship with some Chetty folks. Chetty means traders. He belongs to all the Kulas. He is black in color, but he delights with golden-hued damsels. His ways are free, and he laughs at your empty false shastras, in which you try to confine him. And then he says, he structured 4 varnas, but the foolish men led it to destructive path. He says that whoever has virtue, knowledge and deeds, they are the ones who are the highest. Everyone else is the low. If you have fake scriptures talking about the Varna hierarchies, he says that define the low and high only by appearance and birth. Better to burn all of them. That's what he would say. So this is my father. Krishna, my father. See, as you see in this poetry, Bharati's own values come here. So he used to move around with people from all jatis, used to dine with them. He called for ending all jati-based discrimination. And in fact, when he moved to his wife's ancestral village from Pondicherry after that period, that was a very conservative village. He lived in the Agraharam, but he was a free soul. His mind was always in the thought of the divine. He never used to see any difference. And he was excommunicated from the Agrahara simply because he ate with all people. Nobody could understand his Vedantic vision and his immersion in yoga in that small conservative place. He suffered. But if you see here, he sees Krishna as the epitome of all these Samatva values. Not any oakism or not any secular modern values or anything. He ties it all the way back to Krishna. And in Krishna, my servant, he says that this is a very interesting poem where, it starts with, these servants are always a trouble. But you can't do without a servant, what to do. So then, he came from somewhere. I belong to the caste of cowherds, he said. So like that, then he describes how the servant does every work. But slowly, the servant transforms the master. And then he says, what penance did I do to get this Kannan as my servant? So it's a wonderful poem. And coming to the love poem, this Asai Mugam Marandu Poche. Oh, have I forgotten the face of my beloved? How can that even happen? The heart has not forgotten the love. How could the mind forget the face? Bee forgetting the honey, flower forgetting light, the field forgetting the sky or the rain. Can such things happen on the earth? Sublime poetic expression. And coming to Kannamma, the feminine Krishna, he says that her bright eyes are like sun and the moon. Have you ever seen a lover describing her lover's eyes as sun and the moon? That's the cosmic vision. And then he says, this whole world is silent, but I alone should suffer in her separation. This is the last poem, Kannamma in Kadali. So where there is a torrent of metaphors coming one after the other, where he says, this is again his own translation, to me, you are the light and I am the sight. Okay? You are the blossom, you are the flower, I am the bee. You are the rain, I am the peacock dancing to that. Oh, spotless beauty, Krishna bright. And then he says, all the joys of heaven and earth, oh Krishna, in you they have their birth. Ethereal glory, endless might. So this is the culminating song of Kannan Paattu. And as you see, this sublimity of the last song, that is the ultimate spirituality of Kannan Paattu. So all the worldly relationship, like friend, father, mother, directed towards Krishna, they get sublimated and transcended. And Krishna is the ocean in which all these relations arise and then submerge. And he himself records it in one of the songs. I'll just read out the Tamil just for this song. Yane yagi, yennalar piravai, yanum avayumai, irandinum verai, yado purulam mayakannan. Becoming I and things other than I, being different from both me and them, this elusive entity, magician Kannan. So this can be tied directly to the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, which says, Atmanastu kamaya, sarvam priyam bhavati. It is the love of the self, due to which everything else becomes dear to us. And here, the Krishna and the self are no different. Okay? Krishna is Atma Swarupa. And the key to understand this lies again in Arwa. Actually, this is my last, penultimate slide. So this is the beautiful poetry of Arwa. I don't have time to read it full. உற்றார்கள் எனக்கில்லை யாரும் என்னும் உற்றார்கள் எனக்கு இங்கெல்லாரும் என்னும். It starts like that. So this is basically the lamentation of a mother who sees the intense love her daughter has for Krishna. So the girl starts blabbering like a mad woman. Okay. So just you see these words, it looks like the words of a mad girl. The little girl says, I have no relations here. Everyone here is my relative. She says, I am the one who makes relatives relate. I also end all relations. I become all relations. So the girl keeps blabbering like this in a trance where she identifies herself one with Krishna. In fact, this whole 10 verses of Thiruvaimozhi, where the girl starts saying, I am the one who lifted the mountain. I am the one who killed Putana. Like that. She starts blabbering. So it is this verse of Namarwar that is the key to understand all of Kannan Paattu. So in my conclusion, I give a quote from Srirangam Mohanarangan, who is going to be our valedictory speaker. He says, Kannan Paattu is the life philosophy of Bharati. If life is Kannan, the living consciousness that unites with it is Bharati. This is a creation where Bharati transcends himself, he says. So in conclusion, I say this is a modern spiritual text. It is rooted in the Gita and the Alvars, but it also blends modern ideas like social emancipation, women's empowerment, freedom, everything in a way. See, Bharati was not a fragmented person. Okay, so like when the Lord says in the Gita, Mat karma krin, mat paramo, mat bhakta sanghavarjitaha. The mat karma, do my work. It doesn't mean just going to temple and worshipping Krishna alone. Every work, writing, creating political awakening, participating in the freedom struggle, writing poetry, helping the poor, everything Bharati saw as Krishna's work. And that's what we see in this Kannan Paattu. With that, I end my talk.
That was, you can see the response. That was an amazing presentation, very lively, an engrossing presentation. Questions?
There's only one question. So Bharati had never claims himself to be a Vaishnava, nor he followed any one particular tradition. And whenever there was a chance, he not only wrote against traditional beliefs in bhakti, especially he acted against them. He wrote.
How much of Bharati?
Tradition. Yeah, of course.
He ever write against Bharati?
Yes, of course. He all.
Give me a quote. Give me a quote where Bharati wrote against Bharati.
Of course, the corpus is public. Public.
Please, I don't know your name, sir.
Give me a quote.
Even yesterday, this happened. Let us not be juvenile here. This is a serious scholarly conference. Let us not get into unnecessary acrimonious debates and all that. If you have a specific point, be very specific. Quote. If you have a quotation of anti-bhakti from Bharati, please quote that line and show that and converse here.
So it is a well-known event that he actually.
Not well-known, sir. You have a quote. You don't have a quote. Please stop. Okay. No. No, please. Let us not get into that. This is a scholarly conversation. He is like that. He is like that. No, none of that. Let us not have any of these things.
There are books, published books.
Yeah. Okay. So.
Okay, Nair one.
Yeah, Nair.
No acrimony, no hysteria. I just want to ask one question. I was wondering, do you see any Varanasi connections, Kasi connections in his poems on Krishna? The Alvar southern connection you pointed out, and Bharati was in Varanasi for 4 or 5 years. Am I right? Any connections there? Number one. Number two, what about this Kannamma, Krishna as in the form of a feminine deity? Do you see any connections related to Sri Vidya Gopala Sundari tradition? This is the second thing. And whatever Nagaprakash said, I will discuss to Jataayu personally, not in the forum as he stood. So these are the two questions which I wanted to ask to you.
I don't think
In Kannan Paattu, I don't think there is any Kashi connect. See, Kashi was his formative years. So that influenced all his thought process. In fact, there is a saying that if Bharati had not gone to Kashi, we would have a different Bharati. We would have some conventional Tamil Pandit like person who just writes some very old style poetry. He would have just been one of those 100 other poets. It is Kashi who transformed him as the great man as we see him today. So that's the connection. And regarding Kannamma, see, I don't think he practiced any tantric or Gopala Sundari kind of upasanas. Okay, so he practiced yoga. He was very much familiar with the Patanjali Yoga Sutras. He was in the company of many siddhas in Pondicherry, like Kullachami, Yalpanam Govinda Swami, which he himself records by name. So he did some sadhanas, some yogic sadhanas, but predominantly this Advaitic type of sadhanas. Because he was a poet, right? I don't think he would sit in some big puja for hours. All his things were more of a mental meditation and contemplative things. It was never like that kind of upasanas he indulged in. So there is no influence of any of that. Perhaps it was his poetic vision to view Krishna as feminine. See, the other thing, he had only 2 daughters, no sons. Okay, so to view Krishna as a girl child, not just as a boy, it actually comes from that. I think if you see the entire Kannan Paattu, every one of these can actually be traced to Bharati's own personal life. So that's the reason, I think. That's the influence.
Asha Mujan Marandu Poche, I thought it was like he could not get a picture of his mother, so that is why he composed that song. Just a clarification.
The poet inspiration comes from many quarters.
Yeah, this is a biographical question.
No. See,
In one of his own translations, actually Bharati says that Kannamma is the feminine Krishna. He himself has recorded it. Thank you, ma'am.
Kitama Gopala Bala Kitama is Telugu.
Wow.
Kitama Gopala Bala Kitama. I have the whole song, but there is no time for that. This is a very, very popular Telugu folk song, sung almost everywhere in the Telugu places. And in our conference WhatsApp groups, particularly in the Shaivism group, I think, Kaliya Krishna pictures from West Bengal were shared. And there is a Shamala Krishna in the Telugu speaking areas. There is this identification of Krishna with the Devi. Yesterday, Shefali ji was talking about Malsa, the Mohini form of Krishna. Narayani and Vaishnavi being the forms of Vishnu is very well known. So the femininity of Vishnu in the form of Vaishnavi and Narayani and Malsa in Goa, all this is a very established tradition. Recently there was an attack on Ayyappa tradition by the Dalit rationalist groups in the Telugu speaking areas. They were talking about how can two males produce a child. Actually, they would understand it only when they understand that Appaya Dikshita comes with a Ratnatraya Pariksha. In the Ratnatraya Pariksha, he shows how actually Vishnu's Shakti being the Vishnu's form is a very obvious thing, and you have as a result Ratnatraya, the Shiva, Vishnu and Devi forms as the Ratnatraya. So these are already established ideas. So Krishna among all the Vishnu avatars is the one being always viewed in a very feminine form, because femininity has been viewed as something which is highly decorative, beautiful and all that. So in many kavyas of Krishna also, poets have described as though when Krishna comes into the streets, people watch as though they are watching a woman. The way he decorates himself, usually it is done by women only. So Krishna always comes like,
I put one picture.
Kannamma, Kittamma, my Kittamma. Krishna is my Kittamma. Always, for in our folk songs, Kittamma, Gopala Bala Kittamma is our Kittamma. Kannamma, that is, Bharati knows it. Yes. Yeah, now because of this pop spread of music, this Rangaje also has become so popular now. Yeah. So Bharati probably imbibed all this. To my young friend who wanted some kind of fighting conference, I would like to tell you, sir, that the whole presentation of Bharati by Shankar Narayanan ji is important in the history of modern Indian literature, because that was the time when Reformation movements were picking up. And these Reformation movements were either influenced by Dayananda Saraswati's Arya Samaj or Raja Ram Mohan Roy's Brahmo Samaj. And from the Brahmo Samaj influence, what was happening was there was this iconoclast interpretation of Hinduism on the basis of Upanishads. So it was becoming fashionable even in Karnataka, Kannada modern poetry, to become iconoclast in your poetry. So there was only a very small section of what were called romantic poets. They were given the name romantic poets. These were bold enough not to be branded as iconoclast like Brahmo Samaj's influence. And all these years I was also under the impression that Tagore was always a Tagore of Gitanjali. So when you read Tagore of Gitanjali, you get an impression that he is also iconoclast, he is anti-bhakti and all that. But my good friend Srijit Datta is bringing out all the bhakti side of Tagore now. He is publishing the Shiva poems of Tagore. He is bringing out the Krishna poems of Tagore. So, when a presenter has presented to you only bhakti, bhakti, bhakti in every poem, at the end of the whole presentation you say he is anti-bhakti. This is completely funny. It doesn't happen usually. I think that should not happen. But if you have a specific theoretical point that during modern history, modern Indian literature's history, there were these tendencies developing. People were making it a fashion to talk about bhakti as something bad. It was a new fashion of iconoclasm coming from Brahmo Samaj, Arya Samaj, all these reformation movements, and some people were probably parroting these out of fashion. And if you mix up all this and say, oh, Bharati was also like that, after giving so many examples, that it is not like that. He is actually doing bhakti, then this is not, you have to be more nuanced, my friend. If you want to do real literary analysis of modern Indian literary history, please get into modern Indian literature. As a literary scholar, get into literary criticism. Do a nuanced analysis of modern Indian literature. Please study modern Indian literature, particularly Tamil literature if you are interested. Study that period, how Reformation movement was being brought into Tamil. There were actually anti-bhakti Tamil poets at that time. They were influenced by Brahmo Samaj. But Bharati was not like that, is the point being made. That is the whole point that is being made. So, okay. Good. These are all important biographical. Yeah. Okay. Wonderful. So I would not have taken this much time if not my friend inspired me to be so long. Thank you, my friend, for inspiring me to be longer than I wanted.